Welcome to I Caught It on Audio. This is Water Cooler Chat Episode 8. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Part 2.
Okay, welcome back to the 64 Tacos podcast. We're doing another water cooler podcast series about the Obi-Wan Kenobi series on Disney Plus. And so this episode is going to be about the second episode, which gets into the Obi-Wan going to rescue little Leia from a planet called, what was it called? Daiyu?
Dio or something like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
Once Bail Organa, Leia's now father figure, if you will, adopted father, he finally convinces Obi-Wan to go and track down Leia. And so that's what Obi-Wan does. He goes to this cyberpunk-ish planet, Daiyu, I think is what it's called. And he knows that she's there. How does he know that she's there? What was the impetus for that?
They could track the ship to the planet, but then he lost the tracking at the planet.
Okay.
Because nothing can be tracked at that planet. How Leia got kidnapped randomly and they had a tracer on the ship that kidnapped her, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So once he gets to the planet, he goes and asks this random person, like, "Hey, I'm trying to find the ship," and the person's like, "Yeah, people don't want to be found here," and just walks out.
Something that he should know. Like, he's traveled the galaxy.
Right. So he finds this con man Haja.
Yeah, a kid leads him to the Jedi Haja.
Yes, who turns out to be a fake Jedi who's just
which was awesome.
It is. I love that, and I loved the actor Kumail Nanjiani.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
I think I've only seen him he's in the Externals, I believe, and he was great in that as well.
Yep, and he comes clean but gives Obi-Wan the information about where Leia might be.
Yeah, because he's a grayish person. He's not a bad person, but he wants to make a little money along the way. So, which was refreshing.
Yeah,
it's an interesting character.
It is, yeah, and he's just doing his thing, and he's kind of caught up in these other events that are going on. But he makes decisions later on about helping Obi-Wan, even though it might hurt him or get him in trouble. So Obi-Wan goes and finds where they've got her held in some sort of drug spice
lab.
Yeah. And he manages to rescue her, but of course she's not convinced, she doesn't know who Obi-Wan is.
Which is very smart on her part.
Yep. And so there's a little bit of conflict about her, not being able to fully trust Obi-Wan. And so then the Inquisitors show up, and Reva, of course, is going rogue again. The Grand Inquisitor doesn't really want her tracking down Obi-Wan, right? He's just like, let's kind of forget about that, because I don't know exactly why, but
he started with that, but then he moved into, well, if Obi-Wan is here, like you said, I want the credit.
Right.
I'm taking over.
Yeah, it's like this power struggle thing where, he's kind of, he wants it all the glory for all the hard work that she's done. And of course she's upset about that, and she what does she do? She creates the bounty for Obi-Wan, which I thought was genius.
It is flush him out,
Yep, flush him out, have everybody going after him all at the same time.
Secondly, I want to point out how dumb it is that Obi-Wan went to this planet dressed in something that could very loosely be described as Jedi robes.
Yes.
Like, he looks like a Jedi. Like, just at a glance, he looks like a Jedi.
Yep.
And nobody seems to notice.
Right. Yeah. This is where I hope, I'm fine with all these plot elements and stuff, but I hope that Obi-Wan kind of learns from some of these mistakes early on, and is able to, be a little bit more smart about his dealings as the series goes on, because he's making some real boneheaded plays.
Well, at least he's using a blaster. He hasn't pulled his lightsaber yet.
Right.
Well, he's pulled it, but he hasn't ignited it.
Yep.
So, I mean, at least he's using a blaster or hiding a lot of the times, which I was glad to see he didn't light his lightsaber up at the end of the episode. He had it out. He's ready to go. And he probably could have taken her without much difficulty.
Yep.
But he's
trying to stay incognito as much as possible.
I also liked when he punched the guy with the horns on his head and cut his hand open.
Yep.
I thought that was a neat detail.
The Darth Maul species guy.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yep. So then, so we don't need to go through all the plot points or anything, but what I am curious about your thoughts on are how does anybody else know about Leia and her connection to both Obi-Wan and Anakin? That's what I'm a little concerned about, because I felt like that was really, really supposed to be secret, and now it's sort of like, no, this is kind of common knowledge.
I don't know that the knowledge is Leia is Vader's daughter.
Okay.
I think the knowledge is that, Bail Organa and Obi-Wan used to be kind of close.
Okay.
And if we kidnap Bail Organa's daughter, maybe we can flush Obi-Wan out.
Okay.
That's how I took it. Because if I were an Inquisitor and I knew Vader had a daughter, I would be getting Vader his daughter to get like as much credit with him as I could.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be using her as bait.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that makes a little bit more sense. I mean, not, in the event that it was known or whatever, I could definitely see that something where like Darth Vader is telling Reva because he wants Reva to do his bidding. And I really don't fully understand or know I'm sure it came out in the Clone Wars or one of the animated series.
The Grand Inquisitor's a main villain from the Rebels TV series, which I haven't watched much of.
Okay. So you don't really know what the hierarchy is. Like, do they report directly to Darth Vader or the Emperor?
I believe they report to Vader because it's Vader's job to hunt down the Jedi.
Okay.
But I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. And I, all that stuff is fine. I like the dynamic of, having Vader kind of stay out of dealings until he absolutely needs to, and having these underlings going and doing his bidding. In fact, that's, kind of one of my complaints about the sequel movies, where they had like Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren, and the Knights of Ren just don't get used at all, and they're just kind of like background noise.
It is so stupid and such a lost opportunity. That should have been like the whole second movie.
Yeah, because that's one of the things that the series or these stories need are really good villains that you hate, but you can also in some ways sympathize with. And I think that's what's happening with Reva, which I think will be really good for both the character and the story, is how this she's a villain, but there's going to be, we don't know exactly what's going on with her, but I feel like there's probably going to be something that the audience can be sympathetic with her about. It may not necessarily agree with her decisions around those events, but I think there will be sympathy, and it'll be more to her than just, she's, a badass Jedi and dangerous and scary and all that stuff,
But that's what makes the best villains are people you can relate to. You're like, I see exactly where you're coming from. You're just going too far.
Exactly. Yep. And that's something that, Star Wars needs now more than ever is good villains that can counter, the good light side characters, and Obi-Wan has always been one of those really good light side characters.
He's been one of the best. Like, he's probably the greatest hero in the series.
He is. Yep. Okay, so then the episode wraps up with Obi-Wan finding out that he and Leia escape, and they find out that, or he finds out from Reva that Anakin is still alive, which is something he did not know. He thought Anakin died when he got
makes
burnt.
The ending of season or episode 3 a little bit more understandable, but
yes,
I still will argue that if he believed Anakin was his friend at any point in time, he should have mercy killed him.
Yep. To just leave him as a crispy critter.
To leave him like writhing in pain and on fire. This seems heartless.
This is what you had coming, Anakin. No, that's not something. Yeah. Or try and get him help, like that you vanquished him and then try and help him yourself, instead of just leaving him there.
I know that we had to keep him alive because he has to become Darth Vader, but
right. Yeah,
still.
And let's speak to that a little bit before we wrap this episode up. Is just one of the things that always concerns me about these types of series that are in between, is like, how are they? I get how they're going to tie things up from what came before, that makes sense. But how are they going to make sure that they don't step on things that come after? And I think that's kind of a danger. That's a fine line that they have to walk, because in my mind, while I'm watching this, I'm thinking, well, Leia is 10 years old here. Okay. She's old enough to be able to remember Obi-Wan Kenobi. I
had that same thought. How does she not connect that Ben, quote unquote, is not this Obi-Wan that, she's been told stories about?
Yep. Yeah, I think it's kind of a little bit of a continuity problem.
I really like that we're seeing young Leia, and she's a really strong character. I really like that. Like I think it was in the first episode where she called her cousin out.
Yep.
Her cousin was like, "Oh, well, you're not really an Organa," and she's like, "Oh, you're just some loser bully."
Yeah, and in a way where either she's using the Force already, or she's just incredibly perceptive young child.
It's probably a little bit of both.
A little bit of both, and honestly, it doesn't matter to me. It's great. I think it's great character development,
and it also felt like the Carrie Fisher Leia. I mean, this is a lady who's not going to take any guff from anyone.
Yeah.
So I like little Leia. I'm torn because the same story could be told using a different character. Obi-Wan's going to be the hero.
Right.
You don't have to muddy the waters with young Leia. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I'm really happy with young Leia. I like seeing her, and I think she's a good character.
Yep. Yeah, my initial thought was, oh, this is going to be awful, because it's going to kidify the whole thing. But then once, the actress portraying her is awesome. The way that they're
very good for her age. Very, very good.
And the way they're setting up the character and the way that they're actually doing the character development is also amazing. So yeah, I've no complaints. Whatever reservations I had immediately are gone and out the window. And I did think the kidnapping scene was a little bit goofy.
There's no way those 3 adults couldn't catch her.
Right.
She got away a lot.
In short time. Yeah.
I thought that was goofy too. I'm watching it roll in my eyes. Speaking of kidifying it though, did you watch it with Ollie and Andy?
They were in the room, but they weren't really paying attention very much.
Okay. I watched it with Simon.
Yeah.
And he was playing with a toy, and it did not take long for him to be all in on the series.
Okay.
So, I mean, he's all in, and he's going to watch them with me now. He, at first, was like, I don't like Star Wars. I'm not watching that with you.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And then a couple minutes later, he shows up in the room. Am I too late to watch? No. I was just about to start it. And he fidgeted for a minute and probably it wasn't even 5 minutes in. He was all in on the show.
Yeah. I think it maybe appeals to a little bit older age group, age demographic.
Yeah. How old are Ollie and Andy again?
6 and 8.
Yeah. Simon just turned 12, so it's probably because the slow parts are slow.
Yeah.
But necessary, especially since I don't think we're going to see a lot of Obi-Wan fighting.
Right. Which is good. I think that's the way it should go.
He shouldn't be. I mean, it's just going to call attention to himself.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap this up, and then we'll be back again next week with part 3, episode 3, and discussing more about this series. So we will see you, the listener, then.
I caught it on audio.